chairman will be running a little late tonight. He's stuck in traffic on the sawmill. All things given, I think he'd rather be here than on a sawmill. But, Peter, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Robert King.
Here.
I'm here. Mary Cronin.
Here.
Diane Cervello.
Here.
Carla Moreno. Joan Mead.
Here.
Mary Comstock. Ed Torian. Here. Paul Swenson. Here.
Would you read the minutes from the last meeting?
Our last meeting was held on Monday, April the 14th, here in this room. And at that time, the commission discussed and accepted the minutes from the March 24th meeting. The commission also heard input from the public. Joel Yurch, Lynn Waller, Margaret Mitchell, and Al Robinson all spoke to address the commission. The commission heard from Dennis Alpern, the planning director, who discussed the combining of the planning and zoning commissions. And he pointed out that it was recommended by Danbury's Plan of Development that the two commissions would be combined. And we had an extended discussion with him about that. The commission also, after listening to Dennis Alpern, had a discussion with its counsel, Eric Gottschalk, regarding language for Charter Section 7-10 and Section 1-2 in the proposed preamble. Mr. Gottschalk pointed out at that time there is no official map showing the metes and bounds of the city of Danbury. The commission voted on the following matters. We unanimously approved the addition of language to Section 7-10 of the charter. We, most of the commission, with the exception of Cervello, voted in favor of language for Section 1-4. We unanimously agreed to change the language in Section 3-2 regarding the first organizational meeting of the council after an election. The commission discussed getting input on planning and zoning from the chairman of the planning and zoning commissions. I was assigned to contact the city clerk and treasurer as to their future availability, and the commission discussed having the draft language, the preamble. And the commission decided to discuss Danbury, I'm sorry, I don't think we discussed language regarding entities that might have been governed by special legislative act. That was the minutes of our meeting.
Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
So done. Let us welcome the public to the meeting. Would anybody care to address the commissioners? Joel?
Thanks, Bob. Joel, you're right. 44 Olympic Drive, Danbury. Just two quick topics. I won't belabor what I said before. Again, I would encourage you to reopen the bond issue regarding to bonds that can be issued by the administration with only council approval. You have modified the amount to $2.5 million from the $500,000, but as we have subsequently seen that, in fact, where I have been less concerned that had always been administered as an annual cap, it obviously is no longer the case, as 5 times that was put through in the current budget proposal. So I would just make a suggestion, a way to remedy that perhaps would just be the insertion of 2 words right after the $2.5 million that you changed to say per annum. Makes it clear it's an annual cap, not per issue, not per project, not if, when, or where, per annum. Anything over that needs to go to public referendum, because it is a multi-year commitment, not something you can solve by changing councils and administrations next year or the year after. Regarding the planning and zoning proposal put forth by the planning department, only a couple of comments. As I previously testified, as opposed to that for a number of reasons. If you haven't had an opportunity to speak to other commissioners on either planning or zoning, I would encourage you to please do that. I only spoke to one on each commission in the interim. One was a planning commissioner, a zoning commissioner, and I explained what was going on and what their opinion was, and the response was no way in expletive deleted. The conversation with one of the commissioners on the planning commission again, just ask, this is probably coming, what do you think about it? After some discussion, I didn't get a clear one way or the other about the combination, but there was a very clear thing about appointment versus election. I personally think you could not even consider combining those into one commission with so much power and not having the electorate have a voice in that. But the response I got from that individual was, if it goes to election though, I'm done. I've been there, I've done that, I'm tired of the pettiness of politics, and I just thought all of the years of experience in that one individual commissioner gone. And I got to thinking about the rest of the people on the planning commission, myself excluded. If you look at the composition of the current planning commission, there are decades of experience in land use management in the city of Danbury. And I got to thinking of who these individuals are that give of their time every month, sometimes till the wee hours. And I can't think of one of them that would actually be interested in running for an office. Campaigning in this town, he's right, it's a petty process. It's an expensive process if you really want to get elected, and it's a laborious process. I think it would be a terrible loss to this town to lose individuals like are on the planning commission, or the ones that have been there for years and years. I think my not being there, the loss would be minimal, but there is a lot of experience there that it would just be gone. And as a final, there was some comment in testimony from the planning director about the combination of the two commissions being approved by all of the commissioners on both commissions. I would just like to leave you a little food for thought. We approve plans all the time on these commissions, but there are elements of those plans that we don't like. But the overall plan, yes. What was approved by those commissions was not de facto the combination of these two commissions. That was an element within the plan of development. For the overall, that was approved. And I can see everyone voting for that as a whole. But talk to those commissioners and see if they really feel that about combining those two commissions. An element of that plan is not the same as voting for the overall plan. So again, I would urge you, do not combine these two commissions. Thank you.
Any questions? Anyone else wish to address the commission?
To talk to you about the bonding. I still would like you to open it up again and put a cap on it of some sort. Realizing that a cap, whether it's at $2.5 million and you put a cap on it, it can still go higher than that in any individual year because the mayor can then bring it to the public for referendum, which is how we've worked all this time, so that the public is involved in each issue and has an idea of what is going to go forward instead of just $2.5 million and not allowing the public to see what's going on. If it's $2.5 million per project or per item or however you choose to leave the wording, a lot of times the public will have no idea what we're paying for, and we're paying for it into the future and forever, which bothers me. So I like the idea of the public being involved and voting at a referendum, and it can happen. It has happened in the past when things are important enough. To me, the things that are on the capital budget sometimes are put there to die. They don't really want to do them, so they just keep putting them there and pushing it off. Sometimes they're wishes, as they said. This is the wants, the needs, and the wishes of the city departments. And maybe we shouldn't be funding wishes, especially in tight budget years. So that even though it's as high as it is, it may not necessarily need to be that high. Any mayor at any time could bond for any amount on this thing, and they choose not to. So that's not the public's fault. That's not why it got as big as it did. We have hardly ever, in my tenure in Danbury, voted down a referendum issue. So I don't imagine we're going to start in any hurry either. As for the planning and zoning, I still don't want to see the two of them go together. And although it was stated people did not speak out against it at the plan of development when they were voting on that and the public hearing, I did. I do not want to see it. put together. I really think it's the wrong thing to do for the city of Danbury. I think the more opportunities the public has to find out about an issue, as well as come and address an issue, helps the public. And I personally think that's most important. That's what government is here for. They're running the city for the public and for the people. And for the whatever, I am not worried about, and I probably shouldn't say because I'm on camera, I'm not worried about commissioners, and I'm not worried about city staff doing a job. That's what they're paid for, not the commissioners, the city staff. You need to allow the public to know. The trash transfer public hearing that was filling that chamber every single time with people that were there to speak, only found out about it about 3 weeks or 3 sessions into it in order to fill it, because it wasn't in the newspaper. If you were not an abutting property owner, you didn't even know about it, but it could affect all of our lives. Other people in the city didn't know, didn't like it. Some of the folks from the hospital came and spoke against it. They wouldn't have known about it had it not been running for a fair amount of time. If it runs before planning and then gets publications, and if it runs before zoning, you're liable to catch it at one time or another. If you put the 2 commissions together, you're not going to have that opportunity. Thank you for letting me address you.
Thank you, Lynn. Are any questions? Comments? Are there any other speakers? Mr. Chairman, would you like to get up as a member of the public and address the commission? We're very happy to see you made it through the traffic.
I apologize. Stuck in traffic, kids. Are you guys worried about me?
Tremendously.
I got a phone call that there was a bloodless coup going on. I just wanted to stop
Yeah, we
it.
were going to extend your term. You have this?
Yeah, I think I do. Okay.
Do you want to address it?
Yes.
You can address us.
Yes, are you,
I was waiting for everyone else.
yeah, if everyone else has, then by all means.
If you could take one and pass them down. One of the issues that was raised at the last meeting and discussed with some extent was how long these additional meetings would last if we combined the 2 commissions. So what we did was, we took a survey of all the meetings that were held from April 1st of last year to May 31st of this year. And this is what this shows you, to a quarter of an hour. The Planning Commission in that 12-month period had 20 meetings, the Zoning Commission had 13. The median length for the meetings for the Planning Commission was 2¼ hours, and for the Zoning Commission was ½ an hour, because they missed a lot of meetings. So the median, if you had to do together, would have been 2 hours, 2¾ hours. And then we figured out the mean as well, although I prefer the median in this case because it throws out the extremes. So,
Mr. Elpern, is this typical? I mean, was this at the time when there was development was slowing in Danbury over the last year?
I would think this is typical.
Okay.
It does include the 2 whoppers that we had, for example, for the transfer station. Those will be 4-hour marathons for the Planning Commission in December and January.
Dennis, on the, quote, 2 whoppers in December and January, was there more than one item on the agenda?
Oh, yeah.
If we spread out the scheduling on some of these, would that take away some of the concerns about
Yeah, I
people
was-
not being able to speak on nights when there's, certainly some items, I think, coming before the commissions are going to be more controversial and more of a public reaction than perhaps some others.
Yeah,
that may
I was
not.
going to mention that. We do have a certain latitude, not total latitude. We obviously can't push back public hearings, by 2 months or 3 months. We have to act on it and stay within the time periods of the enabling legislation. But we typically have at least enough to make you move something from one meeting to the next meeting. And in fact, that's what we do. we do that when we see a particular heavy meeting coming up, and we can move something up. Certainly anything that the city is proposing can be moved. You also will save a little bit of time, I don't want to belabor it, but a little bit of time, because you won't have referrals from one commission to the other. I guess that saves a little bit of time.
Yeah, there seems to be a concern that, you know, we've heard, and it is the public access to the meetings in terms of speaking, since they run so late that many people would leave before they had an opportunity to address either of these commissions. And I thought perhaps, you know, there may be some way of scheduling around that.
Yeah, as you may note, on the October 3rd Planning Commission, and then the October 9th, and those, we combined those two. It came up to 5¼ hours, but the following meeting, there was only an hour. So yeah, you could possibly lose some stuff up. The problem with the transfer station was, in my opinion, was nobody anticipated a 2-hour presentation by the applicant. Yes, we had a lot of comments from the public, but a 2-hour application is atypical.
Is there a time limit set for presenters to present their plan to the commission? There is not.
No.
When in scheduling this, let me come back to that for a minute. Does your office, are you responsible for the scheduling, or is each commission responsible for their own?
In practical terms, yes. If we want to move stuff, we get in touch with the chairman.
Okay. So your
And we always
office,
go over the, particularly with planning, because of the hearings, we go over the agenda with the chairman before the meetings.
thank you.
Okay. One other thing I have. And by the way, one more correction. This is not a proposal from me, it's from the Planning Commission. They're the ones who adopted the Plan of Conservation and Development. And I'm going to give this, because it's somewhat voluminous, I'm going to give this to your secretary. These are minutes of all the meetings we could find when this was discussed. And we have the Common Council, the Planning Commission, which had several meetings, the Zoning Commission, and HEPCO. The Common Council made a motion to endorse the plan on November 1st, their November 2001 meeting, which was passed unanimously. The reason I'm not going to go through all this is that much of this has nothing to do with the topic you have before you. There were comments, as they reviewed this, they set up a committee of the whole. On August 25th it came up. They simply asked questions. They said there was an opinion given that we should only combine the planning and zoning commissions if they're elected officials. There was a concern that too much power would be placed in the mayor's hands. And I commented that's certainly possible. The combination would require charter change. The details of the change would be developed by Charter Revision Commission. Common Council reviews any change before it goes to public referendum. Then they asked what are the benefits of combining the two, and the answers I gave there are the same answers I gave to you.
Would you review those, because several members of the commission weren't here last meeting?
Yeah, in fact, I have copies of my
Your submission?
Yeah.
Extra copies.
Okay. Yeah, planning for the future growth and development, this was my response. Planning for the future growth and development of the city requires, at the very least, coordinated and consistent policies from city government. We shouldn't say one thing and do another. The recommendation reads, combine the planning and zoning commissions as provided for by law to enhance coordination between the land use policies of the city and the zoning regulations. And then I quoted to them the section from the planning studies that you have in the report. Planning Commission adopted the plan with amendments that they had recommended, or told us to make, I should say, in January 31st, excuse me, February 6th, 2002, and it was passed unanimously. And I have copies of previous meetings that they held. They held a public hearing on December 6th. Then Waller spoke. 83 Highland Avenue, praised Mr. Alpert and the plan. That must have been a long time ago.
I actually read it, sir.
You're probably one of the few. She was at a HEPCO meeting where he presented plans. They thought it was the best they'd ever seen, and suggested, they haven't seen it, and suggested it should be a model for smaller towns. She was against merging the planning and zoning commissions, don't get too excited, if the positions are appointed, for it would create an imbalance of power. And it should be elected if it has to be done. And I don't know if there are any other comments I have from planning. The zoning commission, sent them, and which you have, which I gave, is a memo from the chairman of zoning, Ted Haddad, to Judge Justina, who was the chairman of the planning commission at the time, approving the plan regarding the draft copy of the plan of conservation development. The zoning commission is in favor of moving it forward to a public hearing stage for the review process. We support general terms and major outlines of the plan and believe it will make a large contribution to the future of the city. The motion was made by Mr. Finaldi, who's now chair of the planning commission, by the way, and seconded and passed unanimously. And then I have a letter from HEPCO as well endorsing the plan.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. Dennis, concerns that we're hearing is if we combine these two commissions, we have the potential of losing a lot of experience in the planning. Is there any way that we could go about structuring this new organization that you could think of that would give us a combination of experience, making sure that perhaps some of those people are on the board that have this experience, and yet have a portion of it elected? Your recommendation is elected, I believe, right?
Yeah. You could probably phase it in, I would think. It might be a little cumbersome, but say the first election, you might have some, the mayor might, or the chair and co-chair of the planning commission might be retained for the first series. Either way, I mean, I think you could probably do that. Because, yeah, I'm concerned about it too. But I don't want to, I wouldn't want to hold up basic structural changes because of individuals who may not last forever into the future.
Well, I'm thinking more of
in other words-
continuity. I'm thinking of continuity.
Yeah.
The people will, come and go as
Exactly.
as time goes on. But I think we had some continuity on this. I think that would be important. Do you agree?
Yeah, the way it was structured, the first year, you elect 5 members for 4 years, a 4-year term and 4 for a 2-year term, I believe. You could make those appointments.
Could we have a board split of elected officials and appointed officials?
I would think for the first, until the second biennial election.
If it would work that way, would we have an ongoing board consisting of both appointed officials and elected officials? And we would have a balance of appointments by the mayor confirmed by the common council, which would provide perhaps some continuity, and we would have elected officials serving on the board, which serves at the interest of the community as well. The community have a say in
Could you do
7-19, I don't know of any towns does this, but 7-193 gives the Charter Revision Commission the authority to craft the election, appointment, and organization of a combined planning and zoning commission. If it's something that you choose to do or explore further, we can do that. But that language in the state statutes in 7-193, which you have a copy of, seems pretty broad to me.
So legally, we could do it.
You know, as a lawyer, I'm just opposed to giving blanket statements without doing just excess research.
Well stated. Could we do it with a handout?
We could have a handout.
Yeah, that's
future
fine.
on this subject.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So Bob, can you rephrase this? Let's rephrase the subject so we're clear on what we're talking about. Is how do you, what is our power to craft how members of this combined commission would be selected, whether they be elected or appointed? Is that,
A combination of both.
or a combination of both?
Right. I think the combination might answer the continuity, Peter. That's what I was trying to reach for. And the elected would serve as the, public input to the process as well. I see certain benefits from what you pointed out with combining them. I mean, the knowledge is there. But I must admit, along that same line, I'm a little confused that if both commissions are currently given communications about the agenda and from your office, reports and recommendations from your office, I can't understand why one doesn't know what the other is doing. And that troubles me a little bit. And I've thought about this over the past few weeks, and I think I just don't understand the process, to be quite frank.
Yeah, Dr. Cronin?
That's where I think we're at, before we can even start talking about structures and whether we combine something to restructure and create something. I think we need to have a clear understanding of what the operations of both are. And I think we mentioned at the last session, would it not be, and I think you and I had talked about this, would it not be a good idea for us or some of the members of the commission to, visit the group or get more information in some fashion so that we have a clear understanding of how both these commissions actually work and operate. And one of the things we talked about was the communication between the two was poor. So if it's a communication issue, that might be solved easier if we knew how they operate in the beginning. And then maybe that communication would be part of the restructure or structure that we create. So I think we're kind of like jumping a gun to think of a structure if we don't really understand, the pieces that we need to work with. Does that make sense?
I think it does make sense.
It's been a long day.
No, you're doing fine.
Except,
Go ahead.
except that. They both do two separate things. So even if one hears what the other's doing, it doesn't mean that they're involved. Nor does it mean that they can go to those meetings, and because unfortunately, because by law, they can't go to those meetings and say, we think this is something.
Planning can't go to a zoning meeting?
Individuals cannot.
What about them coming to us?
What, individuals because they're commissioners cannot, or?
Right.
Okay. All right.
So then the question would be, how then can we get
Here,
more accurate understanding?
if I could take the floor for just a second, a couple of pros. One is it'll increase the coordination with zoning. You talked about that. The zoning doesn't seem to quite get what planning has in mind. Some of the things they do look like it's not quite translating what planning had hoped.
Yeah, I don't want to dump on the zoning.
Yeah,
commission.
it's probably said more negatively than certainly you said it, and more negatively than I meant it. It's just that somehow we're getting the sense that there's a miscommunication, that sometimes the planning plans aren't quite fulfilled when it comes down to the zoning decision. Is that accurate under the current setup?
I think that One deals with policy in terms of setting up a plan.
Right.
The other deals with regulatory changes to zoning.
Mhm.
The planning commission spent a lot more time on the plan of development than any other body did. Although I should say the council held several meetings on this. So you couldn't anticipate that the zoning commission would understand all the details of that plan.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, it wasn't their document.
Yeah, okay. And one of the examples you gave us was you're trying to hang on to light industrial land, and yet with zoning, we're kind of giving it away to big box stores.
Well, we've done that.
Right, so, which isn't necessarily an advantage to Danbury. But, so one of the ideas is we'll have better coordination. Second pro was that it would expedite the petition process, because we wouldn't have the 30, if something gets referred back to the planning commission, there's a 35-day review period. Is that by statute or is it by Connecticut statute? So once it goes back to planning, there's no way of speeding that up. That's not fixable with the common council changing the way we do business. Okay, so those were the two pros that I heard. I don't know if there were more. On the con side at the last meeting, what I heard was, if we did this, it could, especially if it's appointed, put too much power in the hands of the mayor.
Well, we're not proposing.
Expediting the process that is that is good in some ways is also a negative in other ways, because the public may not hear about these things going through, which is what people talked about tonight. So expediting the process is good most of the time, but could be bad.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
There'll be absolutely no difference.
Okay.
Because the combined commission still would have to go through the same process of notification for public hearings, for proposals coming before it, as the planning commission alone has to do now. That same process has to be fulfilled,
Okay.
whether they're combined or separate.
Okay, and there would be not one less public hearing for
No.
any, right? That, we understood that correctly last time. Okay, so we're expediting the process. Maybe it's certainly a positive in many ways, and maybe a little bit of a negative. One of the cons, well, I understand you just answered that, but what I'm hearing is people are saying, I think I may miss it in the newspaper the first time, but catch it the second time.
It'll be the same process.
But for you, I'll take that off my,
Same
I'll take that
exact.
off my negative
Okay.
list. One of the cons of the present system is the political parties have a lot of trouble filling the ballot. So not only do most people not know who their council members are, they certainly have no idea who's on the zoning commission or the zoning board of appeals. And I've been asked probably 600 times to use my name in one of those slots, because by the time you get down to the end, the parties just have trouble filling in those. And this would help that in some way, shape, or form, I imagine. Are there other advantages that I haven't listed, or other negatives to doing this?
Well, the other advantage is that everybody sees the whole process, understands the whole process.
Which means now the zoning people are now part of writing the plan. Is
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
And they would have the time, and because they've got access to your staff, they would then have the expertise to understand what's going on.
Let's suppose, just for example, that hypothetically, that the first one comes on, it's elected, and you happen to get 5 people who were on the zoning commission and 4 people who were on the planning commission. Okay. Well, the planners are gonna know all about site plan review, special exceptions, and all of that. The zoning commissioner's gonna know about what it takes to rezone land and to consider amendments to the zoning regulations. So first, they're gonna be able to coach one another, because each one brings some strengths.
In 10 years from now, everyone's going to have
Exactly.
that body of knowledge, because they'll have
Yeah,
had
because they'll be
experience
doing it all.
on both sides of that. And that can be done by elective people. It's not so onerous that it's going to be a burden.
Well, I don't think we've had any trouble filling the zoning commission since I've been here.
I mean, it seems like we're taking, how many people are on planning and the zoning commission now? There's 9 on,
There's 9 regular on zoning, and there's 5 regular on planning, and each has 3 alternates.
Okay, so we're going to drop from 14 down to maybe 9,
To
depending on
9
what.
Plus probably 3, well, I propose 3 alternates.
Okay, all right. Well, and there's no way of doing this coordination with, it seems to me we're just trying to coordinate and communicate, and I'm not quite getting my arms around why we want to make this change, if that's the only
That was-
accomplishment.
That's my
I-
concern.
Well, I
Exactly.
think that's
Why
a
we
huge
do know.
improvement,
That's a huge, okay.
in my opinion.
All right, good. Anybody else have any other questions?
Would you consider the current system broke?
No,
You just see advantages of,
I'm trying to improve the current system. By me, I mean the planning commission,
Well,
when they
yeah.
adopted the plan in 2002. And I want to make a distinction there that this was adopted by the planning commission. There was no one that I recall on the zoning commission at the time or on common council that said that they were just totally opposed to combining the commissions. It did generate some discussion, but at the end of the day, no one was opposed to it, I recall. And certainly, we were never directed to delete that.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Cronin.
Does that leave us with, why can't that piece you're looking for, the communication collaboration, occur without a charter change? I think that's where I'm getting confused.
Good question. No,
I'm
very
not
good.
confused,
Because they
but
have-
Good-
I can't get beyond that.
It's not just a matter of communication, it's a matter of power. It's a matter of power. At the end of the day, it's a matter of power. The zoning commission has the power to amend the regulations however they wish, regardless of what the planning commission may recommend.
Yes, you did mention that. Okay. That helps. A bit.
Good. Any other questions or concerns? Do we feel we need to speak to people on zoning to get their input, or other people on the planning commission before you would feel we can have an informed discussion? Okay. Good. I think we're a little slow here. So we apologize, but we do want to get it right, and I think a lot of us don't have a lot of experience on zoning and
Oh, I
on planning, so as a result, we're.
It is complicated.
Yeah.
I grant you, I've been here 20 years. Prior to coming to Danbury, I worked in another state. And you didn't have a zoning commission, you just had a planning commission. And a lot of other states are like that too.
Okay.
You don't have duals.
Okay. Probably what we're going to do is try to hear from a few more people that are intimately involved in the process, just so we can make sure we get it right, and then we'll have a discussion and move this ahead. Okay?
I think moving with caution is a great idea. Last meeting, I suggested we perhaps might want to call somebody from the user side, one of the land use attorneys, or somebody who has appeared before the commissions, to hear input from them, as well as the
Yeah.
commissioners.
You know, one of our disadvantages is that we're not in office, we don't have city staff, so we don't really know who to go get, but we will try to dig into that, and Eric, maybe you can help us with that. And we will try to come up with some people that would like to come talk to us.
I think Eric also had indicated somebody from academia. You had a...
Was just thinking aloud, making suggestions to you. If you choose to go that direction,
Well-
I'd be happy to make contacts there too.
We don't have a budget, we don't want to run up city billables or whatever, but we'd like to get some data and...
Yes, it won't take 20 years, did we?
Yeah. We appreciate your pro bono efforts on our part, Peter. All right.
This week, last week.
Okay, anybody, so we're going to get on some planning and zoning commissioners. Anyone else have any other ideas, or we'll talk about it after the meeting, since it's not really part of our public session. Well, go ahead. No, Peter?
No, that's okay.
No, I want to hear it now.
No, I sent emails to the various, when I finally was able to track down the commission email addresses to the various commissioners. I have spoken to different local attorneys, but that's just me speaking to people,
Mhm.
and no one voiced a strong opinion one way or the other. I haven't had any real responses from any of the emails. I invited them to come to any one of our meetings, and I think even provide either written or some kind of input.
Mhm.
So maybe that they haven't had that long enough to think about that.
Yeah.
But I think that this is an issue that at some point, political people in Danbury in 2001 looked at very seriously, they addressed, and they made a recommendation for this to be combined. And we have to be mindful of that. And we're really just going to change some rules around that are in our charter, not much more than that.
Mhm.
You know, and that's what I think our goal is.
Okay. Good point. Diane?
Maybe we could invite some people from neighboring towns that have the combined commissions to see how it works for them, or would that be appropriate? Like, I think Ridgefield has combined, or?
You know, Diane, maybe it's because some of this is related to my business. I don't know if our commission really has an understanding of how people get in front of the zoning commission or what the zoning commission does, despite the fact we listen to Dennis. Or necessarily, I don't know how many of our members here understand what the planning commission does, you know, in any order. And maybe that's why we're so uncomfortable about talking about this. So maybe I should invite somebody to explain from, I guess the point was the user's view of when they go to planning or when they go to zoning.
Mhm. And I think if any of us know
Is
people.
that
on
an
either
accurate, is that an
commission,
accurate,
yes.
you know, that's my sense of
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
commission.
I think we want,
You're not comfortable with what either commission does.
yes.
Or are we
I think-
free to attend the meetings and just
Yes.
watch to see what
I
goes
think,
on, or?
sure, you can as a member of the public, absolutely.
So you said 25 days.
Okay, Rick, if you can get a subpoena power, I'll bring in anybody that wants.
I don't think you'll need to strong arm people, just a friendly phone call probably.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what we'll do then, let's,
Thanks.
okay, good.
Just one other comment.
Yes.
I want to make sure it's clear that this proposal was not meant to criticize either the planning or the zoning commission and how they, do their part. It was to improve the function of both.
Okay. Sounds good. Is anyone making a motion on this, or shall we move on with the agenda items?
I don't know if we need a motion on this, we're just gonna do it, right?
No, I agree, and that, but I didn't know whether people were ready to do it. Then, next thing on our agenda, the commission will review some language prepared by Eric Gottschalk, its counsel.
Well, this is a short portion of the program. On the table, you will find some language that I provide to you that reflects the action we took last September. And that's the only handout I have.
Thank you.
Maybe more next.
Oh,
This was it?
she's slipping.
Now, we did have a proposal from Commissioner King concerning language in Chapter 1 relating to a characterization of government as being a strong mayor form of government with a common council. And I had an exchange of emails with Bob, and the gist of which was that I wasn't sure what to write, and that in any event, it might more appropriately be placed in chapters 3 and 4, dealing with the mayor and the common council when we get to those. However, we can do whatever you like. And I think Bob's response was he wanted to give it some more thought.
Actually, some of the preamble examples that I looked at
Yes.
had a description of, like a brief description of the form of government right in the preamble, and that might be a better place for it.
Okay, and did you have preambles that we were going to look at?
Yes, I have.
That may answer this,
So we can,
this issue.
do we need to approve this, or?
No, that's
this
just
is what we
what you
approved?
did.
Peter, is this what you wrote? I tried to.
Peter, I read yours, it was
Establishing.
Lincoln-esque.
Huh?
It was Lincoln-esque.
That's mine.
Is this
Did you get these
establishing?
preambles?
Yes, I know.
Oh.
This it is if you did what you just did. Yes.
Oh, we already
Yes.
have these. These were from
Diana.
Diana.
Do you have an extra piece?
No, I'm not gonna give you this to ridicule it. Computer
There was a
program.
preamble
You don't
also.
wanna know. And then it's not what it could be.
In the model charter.
Oh. That's lovely.
You like
Did
that?
the model charter mention it also?
Yeah, this is the model charter preamble. I didn't make copies of it.
Establish, keep calm.
Mhm. To establish.
I think in the first sentence, the word have should be here. Or here.
Have adopted.
Have it done. I don't know what I want to put it in.
To establish.
To establish.
Don't worry, we're gonna correct
We're
it.
correcting all the grammar as we go along.
Never do anything on your pilot.
And drop the A, provided cost effective.
Offends them.
Need some.
You want something short?
I like all
No,
those.
no, no, I think it's pretty
Need a
good.
place to
I think
put
that's
the rest.
very nice.
You like it?
I like this.
That's pretty funny.
It's great. Did you want to
wanna
beats
know where-
Waterbury?
you don't wanna know where I wrote it.
That's, yeah, the only question
No,
is.
we don't want to know that.
You know, you wrote it while on a train on the back of an envelope, didn't you?
Peter, this is you?
Yeah,
That's
well,
you?
yeah, I wrote that in court this morning.
And the only thing it's missing
Need
potentially
grammar
is,
check?
we have,
Spell check,
Need- yeah, we
Well,
don't-
needs more
well,
than
we'll do spell check.
grammar check.
Grammar check.
Okay, you want my check?
Catholic school kid.
You can send it down.
No, I'm saying.
That's me.
Checks on you.
Hold on.
Grammar check.
Actually, English teacher.
Oh, that's even
This is the grammar checker.
Huh?
Oh.
I'm the grammar checker. I couldn't read it.
The one thing I think,
City
Peter,
grammar, but-
you think, oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Well, they should know it's.
We're done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's just superfluous.
Do you think it would be a good idea to put in where it says form of local government, bringing in this, where was this, Diane? It was in one of these.
In the New Britain, it says, establishes a representative democracy and balance of power comprised of a mayor and as the chief executive and the common council as a legislative body. Then there's another one that just goes into executive and legislative body without actually identifying them. But I think that if we wanted to, describe our form of government, we should say that we have a mayor and a common council.
Right. You know, I kind of
But we
like
also
this.
have that already in the charter.
It's under elections.
It's under a different section.
Yeah,
It's
it's
under
under
elections, but it-
section
yeah.
1415, whatever, it already
Adding
states that.
it's city culture.
Yeah.
So how do you want to do it, guys? Just, I'd like,
I kind of like to bring this up in the preamble. I think it would be,
So another rewrite and an email.
no, just, it would be where you have a form of local government. It establishes a representation of democracy and a balance of power comprised of a mayor as the chief executive and the common council as a legislative body.
okay, do you want to bring that back to us next week and we'll take a look at it? Next
Is
meeting?
that plagiarizing? Are we allowed to do that?
Yes, you-
Because they're taking it directly from the New Britain. I don't know.
Well, I think what we're doing is using Peter's
Right.
preamble and just.
He wants to
Just
include
taking
this.
this section
Okay,
of
I gotta look in my
Here,
notes.
Peter.
Right here.
It's where I.
He has that.
I have that.
You have this.
The man of the hour.
Fine.
It's from-
Further work. And I'll do it.
Does that make sense to you?
We should all take a shot at it.
Hmm?
He wants us all to take a shot at it
Peter, does that make sense to you?
and send.
If you write it, yes.
I'd be happy to take your right and add that sentence to it and email it back to you for your approval.
Thank you.
So you can be, we can be Thomas
We're all
Jefferson
gonna
to
email
his
you, Peter.
Sam Adams.
Peter?
John
We're
Adams.
all gonna email our input to you, and then you can shorten it all one little word.
Are we all comfortable with it?
No, he's not that comfortable.
Question's been asked, is everyone comfortable with the one that Peter had written?
Yes.
In concept, I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some changes that I would
There's grammar
suggest.
changes
Yeah.
that need to be.
Well, I would take out the word local, because I don't think, and the word premier, I don't know what that means, so.
Okay,
Those are just two
if you
things.
read this, Paul, where I underlined, and we insert that in that local government area,
So here's,
would you be comfortable with that?
I didn't know what it means.
I probably want to leave this out and just take the word local, that's all.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind this, you know, to have that in there, but I don't think it's needed in the preamble, because I think it's somewhere else in the charter.
I think it's, where everybody keeps referring to that, you know.
It's right
I just
here.
think there should be a,
We
I mean,
approved it as an insert.
No, we didn't. That's what, you're right, we did,
Yes.
But it's not there. He
It's
wants
But
not
no,
not.
but it's what we approved to go in the new charter.
you're right. Rick recommends
Yes.
that we put that somewhere else. Maybe it ought to be worded better, but if
This
we
is the
put
new
that,
section 1.4,
right, if
replacing what was.
Right. And we can leave that and leave this preamble intact if we choose to do that. Does that trouble you at all if we leave 1.4 the way we approved it last week, Rick? That's this.
Okay.
I mean, if it's already there, I don't think we need to say it
I agree.
again
I
in the
agree.
preamble.
I agree. That's where it's confusing. I think we're working on the,
The reason why I expressed my discomfort over this language is that it seemed to describe without, in adjective form, what we think of the powers of the mayor without actually doing anything to deal with individual powers. To say he has broad powers doesn't tell me anything unless you then proceed to broaden his powers. Or, I mean,
we take out the word broad and just have
if you
power to manage.
say, we establish this charter and it grants broad powers to the mayor, that to me sounds like a preamble. It doesn't sound like operative language that you would then proceed to use in a particular way. As you go through the charter, you're struggling with, should it be 500,000 or 2,500,000? As a lawyer, I clearly understand the difference between those two. You know, frankly, despite the fact that there's a camera behind me, I've always wondered about the idea that we have a strong mayor form of government, when, in fact, when you read 3-4, looks like we have a strong council form of government to me. So I would be more interested, and maybe it's just me.
No.
But I would be more interested in a conversation about the powers of the mayor when we get to chapter 3 or 4 and deal with the mayor, than having kind of characterized it without content. But that's precisely the kind of thing that, it seems to me, belongs in a preamble, where you say what a wonderful, lovely place this is, and you know, that it has democracy and mayors that are strong, and, you know, men that are fearless and women who are beautiful.
If we adopted language, did you get this like this?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm
If we
sorry, I shouldn't kid.
adopted, no, I
Shouldn't kid.
appreciate
This is
your
serious.
Just with the preamble, then? Just with the-
now, we want to give Peter credit.
No, I don't want
Absolutely.
credit.
It's gonna go
He
down
was
in the
right
history
away.
of Danbury. Peter Bezay, preamble, your name will be.
I'd be happy to
mentioned
work
on
with
the
Peter on crafting something that drew on the New Britain preamble, Bob King's proposal for 1-4, and the language that Peter's already given.
That's fine.
So
Let's do it,
moved.
move on.
So
Come up
moved.
with something that's extraordinary.
Seconded?
Charge.
Thank you. We're done?
That was easy.
We want to add something about the Hat City in there too, though.
I'll write that down.
Cultural heritage of the hat.
Okay.
So that's,
You've read the Waterbury Charter.
Thank you, Rick.
Oh,
Thank you, Rick, for bailing us out again.
what Waterbury has.
Okay.
Wow.
We have an abbreviated agenda tonight. We're down to the item number 5, and the reason we have an abbreviated agenda is we need to come up with a topical agenda for future meetings so that we can try to get some people to come to these meetings with direct solicitation.
So Peter and Rick.
Okay, if you look at the suggested scope of review pages, you can see that we're down through number 3. Number 4 is municipal elections, and I think we're going to start that discussion at the next meeting. Mr. King?
We talked last time about finalizing this bonding thing before we took on elections, because one might have an influence on the other.
Okay. And we've been advised that we can bring that bonding back up at any point, any time, that there's not any issue with that.
Bring
Okay,
it up tonight.
shall we make that number 1? Well, do we want to discuss bonding? Well, we don't have it on our agenda for tonight to discuss
We can
bonding.
add it.
We can add it. If, commissioners, would you like to discuss the bonding piece, or do we want to bring it up at the next meeting and be loaded then?
I'd rather discuss that at the same time we discuss, whether or not we're gonna extend minute office terms.
Do it as part of that discussion. That's going to be a heck of
I
a
mean, because it'd
meeting.
be pretty easy to change that. I mean, we'll vote on it, we already kicked the issue around, I mean, we're just gonna be voting on changing words.
Okay. So for the 12th, we will discuss bonding. We will look at the terms of offices and the various subsets that are listed here. That'll be a pretty big meeting, I suspect, because we can't do a preamble in less than 20 minutes.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
On the terms of offices, obviously the first one would be the term of office of the mayor. We're going to go through each elective office and discuss the terms of each elective office. Is that our?
I believe that's, at least have some thought about that. And now the question is, do we want people to come in and talk to us then, or do we want to get our thoughts out on the table and then figure out whether we want people to come and address us directly about that? People involved?
We have already heard from a lot of people about that when we had a public hearing back in December. I guess I could, send some emails out to whoever if they want to come back and remind us of what they said.
Yeah, I think as long as we do notice early enough, and then if we can blast some emails through the city's thing, I'd like to hear from anyone that's interested, certainly.
Just
So-
That's
So-
a big issue.
I mean, to blast some emails through the city's system is to get people from the city notice, but what about other people?
But when I say city, are we talking council members, obviously the mayor, clerks, and,
But we already had our public hearing. I mean, does that mean the public's going to get another crack at this as well?
my guess is if it's on the agenda, people are going to come
I
and speak
think we
about
have to
it.
have another public hearing, right?
Well, we don't need a special public hearing, we just have public session before.
You must have a public hearing prior to your report, but there's nothing that prevents you from
Right.
having
So,
more than.
so in effect, we're gonna post this as soon as we can, so that people find out that it's one of the top topics of discussion, and I suspect we're gonna have a pretty lively public session.
Just a point, one of the
No,
things,
Peter?
since we were looking at office by office, we haven't really addressed this city clerk and treasurer issue. Would we want to address that as part of the elections portion, you think,
Yes.
Peter?
Absolutely.
Shall we invite the city clerk?
Yes.
And the treasurer,
Yes.
all for May 12th?
So as opposed to the organizational area, we would put that under
Night?
that?
Okay, everybody get rested.
Well, we might as well. I mean, we're
I
gonna,
think the idea is, let's get all the information, let's
Get the info.
get all the information. So we'll invite the city clerk and treasurer. We don't know that that'll be a convenient time for them,
Okay.
but let's try it, all for the 12th. And then we've got the following meeting, we would do the organizational review of the entire city. That certainly should work.
Oh, sure.
Why don't we not calendar that one at this point in time until we get through this election part? Okay?
So, Mr. Chairman, we're going to discuss office terms, the number of elected positions, at-large council seats, and term limits all at the same time, next week, or next month.
It sure sounds daunting.
Okay.
Do you-
Starting the discussion.
I think that's clear, that it's going to be starting. However, if we're going to ask the city clerk and the city treasurer, to come in, I think they should be the first part of the agenda, just so they don't have to sit here all night as we dither, so that we may not get past those pieces, but the fact is that is really the next large part of the agenda that we're going to do. Included in that will be the bonding section, so we'll put that on the agenda for that night, whether or not we get to that. And between now and then, we've got to figure out who we might be able to hear from for planning and zoning, to bring some people in to talk to us, and it probably won't be the 12th, it may be a following meeting, so that we can try to tie up that loose end. Does that make sense?
yeah, I
Paul?
kind of think we should devote May to this as opposed to one meeting, because it sounds like it's...
Yeah, it's going to be May, yeah, I don't think there's any question about that.
And I just, yeah, to the extent that people are here, I want them to come when they feel like we're going to address it.
Okay, so,
We only have one meeting in May,
Oh,
because
just
Memorial
one.
Day is at the end of the
Oh.
month, so
didn't we didn't schedule May 19th?
No, because we have the 12th, and then the 19th was the following week, so we didn't...
Let's make sure on our notices, because I thought
I know.
we could double that up.
Yeah, we just have to, well, that's right,
Yeah.
because we were running into Memorial Day.
Oh, okay.
That was-
Memorial Day is the 26th. We talked about having 2 meetings in there, you and I, moving it to the 19th.
Well, you know what we could do? We could establish that as a second meeting if we feel like it after the 12th. Does anybody have any?
I just think we're setting ourselves up to fail if we think we're going to address all those things in one
What-
meeting.
No, we're going to start them. and then we'll
We're clearly
continue on
not
to the
going to
next
finish,
meeting.
this,
Absolutely.
we have yet to finish anything in the meeting that we started it, so I
Yeah,
don't,
but we've learned.
So you
But I have no
want
problem jumping in with both feet.
Right.
I think we might as well start.
yeah.
you want to schedule a meeting for the 19th then?
We could schedule it at the 12th if people thought they could make it, right? Because I don't,
Isn't there a certain amount of notice you
What-
have to have
what
for a
do we
meeting,
need?
though?
You are required to give advance notice, and as you recall, 24 hours in advance of a special meeting. And the difference, one of the key differences is that you all have to get specific notice of those special meetings delivered to your homes. You cannot add items onto the agenda of a special meeting. You have to publish notice of the special meeting in the town clerk's office.
This wouldn't be a special meeting, though. Could
If we
be,
planned it now, it wouldn't be a special meeting for the 19th?
No, it would still be a special meeting.
yeah,
It's not in
because we
your
posted our
schedule.
calendar, yeah.
It's on your schedule that you would post it in January.
In that case, let's see what we do on the 12th, and if we're ready to make some decisions, maybe we'll come back on the 19th.
There's no reason not to have special meetings.
Right.
It's
No, we
just that you have to
can,
approve.
but we have to have a specific topic.
Yes, you do. You can't add to the agenda.
Yeah,
And
so,
we can't waive the delivery of the notice to the house.
You waive it if you're here.
so we could waive it at our 12th meeting then.
No, individuals attending the special meeting waive it by their presence.
Okay. All right. Good, thank you. Anything else? So we're going to jump into elections, and we will get together and make some invitations to have some people. Okay?
Rick, when does this commission officially end? I know it was 16 months, but when did the starting gun go off?
I believe the end is in January 2009.
So our report has to be through and approved by the Common Council by that time?
No, no, you have to, the statute requires you to file at least a draft report within the time permitted. And then there's a procedure that follows that. The Common Council has a hearing, they make recommendations back to you, and then you issue your final.
Okay, so that process is not built into the 16 months?
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
Yep.
So we have a few more months. We were thinking that we got to be ready by September-ish.
No, I imagine that you'll want to submit your draft report in December.
And there's,
Or within the first week of.
We want to come in under time and under budget, so
Yeah.
we're more aggressive than that. Okay. Is there anything else anyone would like to discuss tonight?
we talked, we talked about public communications. Were we going to bring that up
Oh.
this time, Peter?
It's not on the agenda.
I didn't put it on the agenda.
Oh. The progress report then.
Well, I'll put this back.
Do you want me to rewrite this? You're getting even. But,
You know, I think we should adjourn. You have something else?
If that's a motion, then I don't.
That was a thought. He specifically said, I think.
You're right, you said.
It was not a motion.
I just want to be
Mr. Koch.
clear on what you're hoping for in terms of invitations to others regarding planning and zoning. Was it just, do you want me to call anybody?
Yes.
Or, yes, you do?
Yeah, yes.
And for what?
You probably have more
meeting?
experience than most of us.
I'm happy to make some calls. I just,
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? I think we need the board, I think, is and I don't mean to speak for everybody on the commission, but I think the commission does not understand what the planning commission does and what the zoning commission does.
Got it.
And I think they want to look at it from the perspective of what they hear and what they decide, and why you would go to the zoning commission, why a matter would be before the planning commission.
sure. I'm just trying to understand when you want this to happen. It sounds like you filled your plate for May. Do you want me to use the month of May to try and line up people for June?
Yes, that was the executive committee was going to meet to try to figure out whom should we invite.
Yeah.
And what we're struggling with is because we're not on any of those boards, we don't know who the players are,
Yeah.
who the people are that would have very direct input from very direct experience.
My intention, if you choose to hear from a member of the bar, would be to call Paul Jaber. He's a former assistant corporation counsel. He's soft-spoken and intelligent, and I believe has had success when it comes to land use
Mhm.
applications. So that's the person I would naturally call.
Yep.
I work with him still pretty regularly.
We would appreciate that. We're going to then try to get members of the zoning commission and the planning commission just to come in and tell us what they think.
Sure.
If they all love it or if they all hate it, we just kind of want to hear it. But I think what you're hearing from this commission is, we're not sure why there's this communications gap between what planning wants and what zoning does. We heard there is one, and we still can't quite figure out why. And if I'm the zoning guy that still wants to do it this way, well, if I'm now the planning and zoning guy, why is
Would
it
it not make sense to invite the chairman of each commission?
And we have, yes.
You've done that, I think you've done that, haven't you?
Yeah.
But I think maybe now we need a little more specific invitation to them. And I don't know whether,
Bit more forceful, you mean?
well, I don't know whether the mayor's office might invite them to come speak to us.
That for June as well?
That would be perfect.
You want them at the same time that we have?
I think
Paul or somebody else?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be great.
You want me to try and take care of it?
Would you please?
I'd be happy.
You'll be my favorite counsel. That's a big deal.
Wow. Then I'm definitely getting them here.
I think last time we talked about perhaps getting Arnie Finale here, because he was on the zoning commission, he's now planning commission. and he was on when this whole thing
All right.
went through.
Good.
See,
We talked
he
about-
would be perfect, because he would have the perspective
Right.
from both sides.
And I think we also talked about Ken Keller. Ken Keller, I think,
Who suggested that? Somebody.
maybe Dennis. Ken Keller was on the planning commission, I believe, at the time.
Okay.
And, you know, to get an idea of why
Yeah,
they decided that it should go this way.
yeah. I think that would be great. Rick, do you know those guys, those people?
Yeah, let me make those calls, and I'll report back to you in May. and we'll try
Okay.
and-
Okay, and we'll be emailing between now and then.
That would be one meeting then, we would focus on those people, is that right?
I would, well, I don't even know that it'll be an entire meeting, but yes, we'd focus on them, they would be the beginning of the agenda, and probably at that point, we'd be in the position where we're gonna vote on it, because it becomes like bonding. At some point, we just run out of questions or perspectives. But that will then tie up that piece of our overall agenda. Okay? Does anyone else know people that they, if they, you think they should be?
Ed DeVoe was chairman of the planning commission for a long, but it's a number of years ago.
So we'll open it up. Peter has, I think, emailed everybody on both commissions, right? Asking for.
And those who didn't have email addresses, I sent a letter to.
Okay, so that we're trying to get input and stuff. These guys doing some communications, I'll tell you.
Doesn't
And anything else anyone would like to bring before the commission?
No.
I know Paul Chambers, a very well land use person and very well thought of here in town.
That would be perfect.
Yes,
We'll still go to it.
yes.
Good. Okay,
That's it.
I'll entertain a motion to go home.
Go home.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made.
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.